Hello people. This screencast is about genetic theory. Genetic theory is the basis on which the idea of life after death is founded. It goes back 25, 30 years when it became obvious that death is not an absolute. The reasoning gradually built up, and this web page entry will give you some idea of the history or the path, the evolution of the thinking took place. The first thing that was realized was that there was a finite number of genetic combinations that could exist. When it was first thought about, the writer, the speaker, myself, pegged it at 1 raised to the 200th power. Within a few months, it was discovered after a visit down to the library, and the reference books were used to get as accurate a number as possible, that this figure was discovered. And this is the way the thinking progressed. It was realized that the vast amount of different life forms that exist here on Earth were too large to count or to even assess in a rough way that allowed an accurate figure to be arrived at. But it was assumed that the numerical value had in one way been exhausted, and that the numerical value was being recycled from a particular point. If we knock off about 30 zeros off this number here and bring it down to about 185, 1 raised to the 185th power, that leaves room for that many beings to emerge in the process of undulations. Let's just have a quick look at undulations. The undulations that occur are unlike the genetic combinations, not finite. The timescales involved are truly transcendental, beyond our range of comprehension. However, they can be thought about. We've got to be thinking in terms of at least 1 raised to the 200th power undulations in order to encompass all possible genetic values, numerical values. And even then, we won't be doing the endeavour of life justice to put a finite value on it. As thinking currently stands, we may not be dealing with a finite value when it comes to the life source, i.e. God. Bit of a dramatic picture that, but it seemed the most appropriate. This is the basic idea of a God. Where it started is yet to be understood, and we're slightly going off theme here, so we'll just nip back to where we were. Right, so the reasoning is that, and this isn't really disputable, given a finite value of the number of genetic combinations that can be, as science understands things, means that all life has to do to reinstate living beings over and over is to set a stage or set of circumstances whereby they can occur again, and that is done by or through the thing we call evolution. You haven't got all the facts at your disposal, nor has this person, but the possibility that we do reoccur moves from the possible to the probable and into the actual. It's tied in with ethics, and this point does seem to be it's a bit of a hazy outlook for people who just want to do what they want to do, live the life they want to live, even if it means a reduced quality and or quantity of life for others. And this point needs to be brought into the thinking, because it's the reason why there is the circumstance existing, why the circumstance exists, that the recurrence of life cannot occur when beings choose to live a life that doesn't contain endlessness. This is one of the pages at this website that tries to explain why we have to recognize and act within the scope of which life can operate within. Where it starts, where a person's life allows into their thoughts and actions the demise of other people when that occurs, the person has entered into a finite outlook which reality cannot accommodate. We don't want to dwell too much on the negative, but for those people whose life is less than ideal, it's an important point. So we've got an arithmetic value which must, assuming, and here's the assumption, we're assuming that life continues indefinitely into the future via undulations and has arrived at that point when it is exhausted a particular numerical value, as mentioned earlier. Might take away 30 to 50 of those zeros. We'll take it, just for argument's sake, down to 1 raised to the 175th power. Powers, here's your powers of numbers. Not the entry we wanted. Here's powers of numbers. 1 raised to the 175th power is mind-bogglingly big. I mean, it's just beyond our comprehension. We can think about it, but we can't really get into it in a way that allows us to say, oh yeah, right, got it. It's one of those things that are just too big for our small minds to grasp in terms of real terms. But that's one way of looking at it, this entry here. So assuming that you've accepted what's written or explained as being sensible, reasonable, we can have a look at the next step. And have it explained in a way that you can understand. Now for myself, it's a reducing value in terms of time between lifetimes. At the moment, it's right down to 1,000 years. Less than 1,000 years actually, 2014, 29. We've only got 900 and something years to go before this person is back with you, trying to move things on at a faster and faster pace in terms of ethical behaviour, which in turn enables us to adjust to the idea of permanency of being, in an environment that we find desirable. And things most certainly aren't that way at the moment. So it is a reasonable assumption to say that what's happening with the writers, with the speakers, journey into the future is the same for yourselves, only that we've got to be thinking in terms of larger time scales. The best scenario where is it? Have we got? Let's just open up another page here. I'll just hide my email. This way of looking at things seems to be the most likely And if it's correct, you should start recurring you can stop the page or slow down the page and read these pages that are being referred to at your leisure while you're watching the screencast. It is thought that recurrences for couples who haven't yet teamed up with their soul partner will have another life, assuming that in ethical parameters now, living an ethical lifestyle, in about 7000 AD, for soul partners, and there aren't many of them, I'm afraid, at the moment, but that's slowly, but oh so slowly changing. And you'll get a feel for the speed at which things happen once we have the technological structure in place that allows us to talk to one another on a global stage and are all contributing in the form of questions and answers and formulations that allow us to get a concrete, a solid grip on how things work. We're still very vague at the moment. I would love to be able to say this, that, the other, and let you know exactly where things are, but I can't do that until we're fully in communication with each other on a global basis, and everybody's got the opportunity to input their thoughts, and it will be a matter of certain people asking the right questions that prompts the answers, that gives us the insights into just exactly how genetic theory works. As much as I'd like to be able to do it on my own, it's just not possible. So we've got to be getting going on that one. The sooner we get going, the sooner we can settle into a relaxed frame of mind about when and where our next recurrence occurs. So we're back into politics again. Which takes us back to this. and this, and this, and this, and this, and the way things are going, what's happening of importance, to get to the stage where we can start using our technology on a worldwide basis for the benefit of all, and not just for people who've got less than altruistic or an all-encompassing outlook for life. There is a radio channel where we can get into a conversation on these matters, but this is only skirting round the edges. We need a much broader platform, as has been said, whereby we're not limited in any way at all in terms of two-way communication. This is I don't know if you can hear this. Well, that's the radio, and that's one way we can talk to each other. But I have tried getting a few programs going, and one person responded, and again it's this has been the way it's been right from the start, rather than go forward it in a completely open, unreserved way. Everybody's gone into this clique cult group mentality whereby they don't seem to want to share, which is bad news. And I'm waiting for things to happen here, and it looks like it's going to take 18 months-ish to get to the position where we can start getting a sure footing, where we can start getting a sure footing into the future, where we know that we're moving in the right direction, and we start doing when we start doing it, it will start accelerating, and things will start moving along much so rapidly.